chapter will be written between two teams with 3 decades of history. And it's no longer Oakley and Mourning and the Van Gundy brothers, although Pat Riley is still here. But it's time for a rivalry renewed. Our Adrian Wojnarowski has more.
Houston ducks under, got it! And the New York Knicks have become the second team in NBA history to knock off a #1.
This one's going to get really ugly.
And there's a fight breaking out. Jeff Van Gundy is on the bottom of the pile. There are bad feelings between these two teams.
This New York-Miami basketball blood war began with a curt resignation letter spinning out of an old fax machine inside of Madison Square Garden. Nearly 30 years ago, Pat Riley informed the Knicks of his resignation and ascension to an historic package of power and wealth on South Beach. Old Man Riles delivered the opening salvo for 3 decades of an on and off again Eastern Conference death grip. From Zoe and LJ to Ewing and Oak to the brothers Van Gundy. Heat Knicks is a rivalry short on aesthetics and long on blunt force trauma.
Jimmy to the rim. The catch put up. It's in! The Miami Heat are just the 6th, 8th seed to defeat a #1 seed.
It's always good for the league when there's a Heat Knicks playoff series.
So now, here comes Riles and Eric Spoelstra with Jimmy Butler, the hottest player in these playoffs, a Garden villain straight out of Central Casting.
I don't care where we play. We're out there, we're going to compete. Whether we play in Miami, whether we play in the Garden, or we play at Rucker Park.
All these years later, Spike and Johnny Mack are still in the house. The Knicks are a throwback to their 1990s roots with guard Jalen Brunson, whose old man played in his share of those series.
It's great to play in the Garden and have that advantage, and I think for us, we just got to focus on one game at a time.
The Eastern Conference braces for a brawl that threatens to spill onto New York's 7th Avenue and Miami's Biscayne Boulevard. Again, it's the Knicks Heat in the Eastern Conference playoffs, and everyone ought to prepare themselves for one unescapable truth. Once the ball goes up, all hell breaks loose.
So good. All 4 of the Knicks Heat games this season, they were tight. They were decided by less than 10 points. 2 of them were separated by just 2, and both of those went New York's way. And guys, it is 25 years ago to the day, April 30th, 1998, that perhaps one of the most famous brawls in all of the playoffs between Larry Johnson and Alonzo Mourning went down. Woj joins us at the desk now. What is it about these two teams, the history that they have, that yields all of this?
You know, you go back in time, and it still holds true today. Physical, competitive teams, and these Heat and Knicks teams now, in an NBA that's very different, they look a little similar to what we saw in the 90s. A player who had a lot of success against the Heat this season, Julius Randle. I'm told he is out for Game 1 with that left ankle sprain. He worked out before the game, was able to do a little more, but he's out. He played well against Miami this year, 27 points, 9 rebounds, 5 assists. New York will have to do it without him in Game 1.
Michael Wilbon, you are our resident historian.
This means I'm old, Malika.
It means you're still looking good and maybe a little bit on the But for you, how would you describe this rivalry?
That was good work, first of all.
That was awesome.
It's contentious. Look, I covered a lot of these guys when they were teenagers. I've known Patrick Ewing and Alonzo Mourning since they were teenagers and covered them at Georgetown every day. And I don't mention the rivalry to them. They are great friends. I just avoid it. It's a topic you avoid because it's that contentious, even between two guys who are brothers, okay? And so I sat at those games. We did. Stephen A., I know you were at a lot of those games. And you know what? Look, Celtics, Lakers is a greater rivalry. Boston, New York's a great rivalry. Boston, Philly, there's some great rivalries. This is the newest of those, and yet it is so contentious. Pat Riley has a lot to do with that. Yeah. And that's the sort of the nexus, is it not? Don't you feel that way, Woj? That Pat Riley's involvement with both of them and the Heat, pun intended, the Heat throws off and the intensity he has, it's irresistible. Irresistible.
Riley brought a lot of psychological warfare to those series between games, during games, with officials, with rival players and rival coaches. Jeff Van Gundy, who was his protege, that was a big, big part of it, too.
All nice. Beautiful job. Beautiful soliloquy there about the history. But damn it, this is what this is about right now. Julius Randle is going to be out. Obi Toppin, a 5-star this year's average better than 21 points, better than 55% shooting from the field. He's going to be key. This is the thing that I pay attention to when we talk about a rivalry like this. It's the physicality. This is what I'm paying attention to. I'm looking at a Mitchell Robinson that's got 29 offensive rebounds in the first round series, okay? I'm thinking about the fact that you don't have to go against Jordan. You don't have a situation where it's Melo in New York, but unfortunately there's LeBron. When you look at the New York Knicks against these Miami Heat, they're evenly matched, and that's what harkens me back to the rivalry of everything that you just showed. Because even though they had Mourning, and even though they had Hardaway and everybody else, they still had Larry Johnson. They still had, the Oakleys, the Ewings of the world, that kind of stuff. It's evenly matched. And yet again, here we are. We don't really look at the New York Knicks and the Miami Heat and say one or the other has a definitive advantage over them the way you looked at the Knicks against Jordan and the Bulls and say, hey, they got Jordan. Oh, no. We look at the Knicks. We appreciate Jimmy Butler, but they can be had. And that's all I care.
The thing it reminds me of in playing in the league at that time is personal. Like, you took it personal against the opponent. It didn't matter if you went to high school with them, you went to college with them, you didn't help up the opponent, you wasn't exchanging jerseys. And physical intimidation actually exists in the league. You weren't making a shot and celebrating after the shot because somebody's going to knock you to the floor. And so for me, one person, and Woj says it, embodied it, and it was Pat Riley. Because I hate to tell you, Stephen A., he was the one that got away. And when he left, Wade, Shaq, now Jimmy Butler, Alonzo Mourning, they got 3 championships. And the Knicks are still now searching for that. And that's what made it even more personal. He developed Eric Spoelstra while the Knicks were still trying to find that next head coach. So I'm fascinated to see how this series plays out.
Well, today, a new chapter will be written. It all goes down at 1 o'clock Eastern in the Mecca. Game 1 between the Heat and the New York Knicks.
Let's
Ooh,
go.
baby, this is going to be a good one. Before we continue to look ahead, though, we need to look back. The Nuggets and the Suns. The Nuggets established themselves as the #1 seed they are. Are we in trouble, Phoenix? We discuss.
Embrace it.
Welcome to NBA Countdown, presented by Chime.
Welcome to NBA Countdown, presented by Chime. The crew is in Los Angeles. Stephen A. Smith. We have Jalen Rose, the legend, Michael Wilbon, and I'm Malika Andrews in for Mike Greenberg. And gentlemen, it is going down today. We have no time to waste, so let's get to our opening tip and show you both the appetizer and the main course, depending on who you're a fan of today. Jimmy Butler and the Heat, they are in the Mecca to take on Stephen A's Knicks for Game 1 of the East Semis on ABC at 1 o'clock Eastern. And then it is the 2 greatest words in all of sports. We have a Game 7, baby, between the Warriors and the Kings. There's a lot to discuss, so we're going to get straight to it. Let's start in Sacramento, Stephen A. What is going to be the biggest factor, do you think, that is going to decide who walks out to face the Lakers?
Well, listen, when Steph Curry is playing well, when he's shooting 47% from three-point range and averaging over 31 points in 2 of the 4 Game 7s he's been in, they've won. When they've lost, it's because he's shooting about 33% from three-point range and he's struggling from the field. Steph Curry, as he goes, they go, particularly in the Game 7. We understand the other components are incredibly important. Klay Thompson is going to be important. Andrew Wiggins is going to be important. Draymond Green, his defense, his intensity, staying out of foul trouble, those things are going to be important. Certainly, you look at Gary Payton and Andrew Wiggins together and what they bring defensively. Obviously, it would be nice to get a Jordan Poole sighting, but in the end, it all comes down to Steph Curry. He's got to show up and he's got to be big because that's what Game 7's called for.
You know, those post-game sessions are entertaining. I mean, you can't really take them to heart. I mean, people have just won or lost a game. They're talking really off the top of their heads. But occasionally there's a nugget, and you hear it, and it stays with you. And I know I don't have any conviction about who I think is going to win this. But Klay Thompson, when he said, we're going to respond like the champions we are. That sticks with me.
You just gave me
to
goosebumps.
hear Clay say that. Clay is not a man of many words. He doesn't waste words. I've always loved listening to Clay because he tells you what he means in real time all the time. And more often than not, it's money. And when Clay says that, I'm thinking, you know what? See, Sacramento doesn't have that in the bank.